Hey, before we start, just a quick reminder, this is Season 3, and I've already recapped the first and second seasons. So if you're one of them who hasn't watched those yet, you should do that first. Links are in the description and the comments. After opening the hatch, Judy floated into what looked like a deserted spaceship. She was both excited and nervous, and that feeling grew stronger when she realized the ship was the Fortuna, the long-lost spacecraft of her biological father, Grant, which had disappeared 20 years earlier. The landing pod, however, was missing. She carefully made her way to the cockpit, turned on the control panel, and connected her communicator. She hoped the ship's radar could help her find the missing pod. Suddenly, she felt someone behind her. It was the body of an astronaut. The name tag said she was an expert on the Fortuna, but how she died was a mystery. Judy turned back to the console to look into the ship's history and find out what happened to the crew. She pulled surveillance logs showing the crew members were still in their cryosleep pods. Just then, two asteroids crashed into each other right in Jupiter's path. The impact made the Jupiter's engines fail, and the right engine stopped working completely. A collision alarm blared as one of the asteroids flew straight toward them. Penny yelled for Judy to come back, but Judy was almost done with her scan and hesitated. Seeing danger, Jupiter's autopilot took over and started a 90-second emergency landing. On the ship, Will lost his balance, and the tether connecting the Jupiter to the Fortuna snapped. When Judy saw the tether break, she scrambled to get out of the Fortuna. As everyone on the Jupiter strapped in for the landing, Judy climbed out and pushed off toward her family's ship. She was moving too fast and was about to float away into space, but at the last second, a pair of hands grabbed her. It was June, who was somehow alive. Together, they returned to Jupiter's cockpit. When Judy asked how she got there, June just said that she goes where she is needed. Jupiter then began to land. A moment later, the shadow of an alien robot appeared on the Fortuna's screen, hinting that it might be on board too. Luckily, their ship landed in a valley on an otherwise quiet planet. They had been there 349 days. In that time, Will had grown from a kid into a young man, while Judy and Penny looked about the same. They had planted crops and set up a medical bay and a classroom, making the place a real home. But there were still dangers, like meteor showers that happened often, though none had hit their valley yet. To fix the broken ship engine, they needed to collect pure titanium but it was a very slow process. A job that should have taken weeks had now stretched into a year. Will was in charge of melting the ore. Over time, the three siblings talked less and started to drift apart. It seemed, however, that their robot was also helping them with the work. Judy managed to contact the surviving crew of the Fortuna and tried to start its rocket, but after many attempts, it failed again. Meanwhile, on this new planet, Penny had started a sweet new romance, but not with her old boyfriend, Dar. On another planet, Judy's father, John, and his group were not doing as well. They were on a mission to find the main alien ship and destroy its supplies. They disguised themselves and moved through a dangerous area full of aliens. To avoid being found by the alien robots, which were drawn to electronic signals like sharks to blood, they had to turn off all their devices. During their search, a man found a box with a flashlight inside. He needed the batteries, but in his panic, he accidentally turned the light on. He fumbled to switch it off, but it was too late. The light had already attracted the robots. John had to hide and could only watch in horror as his friend was killed. Back on the spaceship, VJ there heard an alarm signaling a meteor was coming. He quickly turned on the alert system, and the children rushed to a bomb shelter under his direction. Just as the last person got inside, the meteor exploded and disappeared in the atmosphere. It was just a drill, and they felt lucky that in a whole year, no meteors had actually hit them. However, Dar's calculations showed that collisions in space were happening more often, and the danger to their valley was growing. He predicted a meteor could hit them in about 4 or 5 days. Judy asked her brother Will how long it would take to fix the engine. Will told her that if they had enough pure titanium, the repair would only take 4 hours. They called an emergency meeting. Using sensors, they found a large amount of pure titanium ore on the face of a cliff 3,000 meters high. The robots were too heavy to climb the fragile rocks, which meant the humans had to do it themselves. For those with no climbing experience, it was a scary thought, but they had no other choice. They packed their gear and began the long climb up. The group of kids found the climb up the steep cliffs difficult. With Judy in the lead, Will saw a small bug come out of a crack in the rock, which Penny thought was cute. Her new boyfriend seemed to think her reaction was a little strange, but Dar looked at her with a fond expression, hinting that things were complicated between the three of them. They needed to reach their spot by nightfall, so they kept going. From down below, their robot watched them, looking as if it felt guilty about something. Back at camp, June had a feeling the robot was hiding something. When it got dark, they set up their tents on a narrow cliff ledge, which made for a cold and nervous night. The next day, they started climbing again. The air was thin at that altitude, so they had to put on their spacesuits. Penny's boyfriend helped her get safely onto a platform. When he turned to help Dar's pride got in the way, and he refused the help, causing him to fall. Judy rushed downstairs and found Dar had broken his wrist. The other boy had to take him back to camp, leaving only 3 people to mine the ore. Luckily, there was a lot. While on the cliff, Will accidentally kicked a loose rock into a strong upward wind and watched in surprise as it flew up into the sky. That night, as they set up their tents, they talked about their mission to find the Fortuna's survivors. Suddenly, swarms of bugs came out from under their tent. The bugs ate the rock and the tent supports collapsed. Not wanting to leave the ore they had mined, Judy and the others backed away to the cliff platform. That's when Will came up with a clever plan using the upward wind. He tore a piece of fabric from the tent, threw it into the air, and watched it float up. After a quick test, he said the idea would work. The 3 of them used the tent to make simple gliding suits, held hands, and jumped off the cliff together. Holding hands, the 3 kids rode the updrafts in the gorge, floating safely upward just as the rock pillar they had been standing on fell apart. They drifted slowly and landed safely on the platform. To help Judy search for the Fortuna survivors and her biological father, Penny gave her a signal receiver. Judy then continued her climb alone, while Will and Penny started to head back down to camp with the titanium. When Will returned to the workshop, June confronted him. She had noticed that a lot of the pure titanium was gone and accused him of stealing it. Will didn't give her an explanation, but he admitted to taking it and asked her to keep it a secret. Later, he went to his pet robot, knowing it was the one who really took the ore. The robot confessed, saying it did it to protect him because it thought their current location was the safest place to be. But Will, feeling he wasn't a child anymore, wanted to face the dangers himself and asked the robot to trust him. Judy had just reached the top of the mountain when she turned on her signal receiver. She was shocked when it picked up a signal. Not far away, the robot noticed a meteorite falling. It seemed to sense something and was drawn to a cave the impact had created. When it came out of the cave, it was met with the sight of amazing ruins. Meanwhile, John and his team had gathered supplies and returned to their base, which was a group of connected spacecraft. They stayed near a specific star whose heat created an interference that was perfect for hiding them from alien robot scans. They had a meeting to plan how to get an alien engine and capture an alien robot to run it, which they needed to find their children. John pointed out that while the alien robots weren't aggressive, they weren't friendly either. Trying to take an engine that belonged to them would almost certainly make them attack. Still, a year later, parents were desperate to see their children again. Back at the spaceship, Don was now part of the management team. He was still alive, and so was his pet chicken, which had since had many more chickens. Standing in front of a cage, Don talked to his pet. A coworker saw him joking and asked if he could choose the original. Don confidently said he could. Everyone was busy with ship repairs, and Maureen had joined in to help. In their private room, John and Maureen were sad, missing their 3 children deeply and wondering how they were doing, and if they would ever see them again. At the top of the mountain, Judy found a landing pod from the missing Fortuna. She quickly opened the hatch and went inside, where she found several cryopods. Walking to the one at the very back, she wiped the frost off the glass and saw her biological father, Grant, whom she had never met. She started the process to wake him up, but a warning came on about a problem with the system. The pod door opened strangely, and she rushed to help him. After a frantic but failed search for a defibrillator, she tried to use another cable, but it was too short. She managed to pull a cable from another system, power it up, and successfully brought her father back to life. When Grant woke up, he asked who she was. Judy lied and said she was just another astronaut. As Grant's body started to recover, they talked about the planet, Judy's role as captain, and the alien robots. They decided to use a 20-year-old armored vehicle to move all the cryopods. After loading them up, they put on their helmets, and the old vehicle started up with a roar. But their luck ran out as meteors began to fall. As the vehicle swerved, a cryopod almost fell off. Judy crawled to the back to use the crane to secure it. Suddenly, a meteor hit the ground right in front of them. Grant swerved hard, which almost threw Judy out, but his skilled driving threw her back inside. Just then, a huge meteor hit behind them. Judy quickly secured the cryopods with the crane as a wall of dust from the impact rushed toward them. She got back in the passenger seat, and with a brave leap, they drove the vehicle into a large crater. The dust cloud surrounded them, but it wasn't as strong anymore, and they managed to escape the disaster. Right away, they faced another problem. A 1,000-meter cliff they had to get down to reach their camp. Grant was doubtful and asked how they would get down. Judy confidently told him not to worry, that there's always a way to solve problems, something her mother used to say. Grant said he once knew a woman who said the same thing. They were both talking about Maureen. In that moment, Judy found the courage to tell him she was his biological daughter from his relationship with Maureen. After over 20 years, father and daughter were finally together again. The spaceship was flying through a planet full of storms, caught between thunder and strong sandstorms. This was the empty world where the three of them had been sent to get the alien robot their commander had destroyed. To make sure the robot would be cooperative when they turned it back on, Maureen brought an electromagnetic device. They went out in an armored vehicle, with John and Don searching while Maureen provided backup. As the spaceship door opened, the two men entered the storm. It wasn't long before Don got lost because of a signal problem, and both Maureen and John lost contact with him. Just then, Maureen saw a light. It was John, who had disappeared for a moment. With Maureen's guidance, they found the cloth that had once covered the robot, but the robot itself was gone. Their search was a failure, and they had to go back. Elsewhere, Penny and her new boyfriend were having a deep conversation. When Penny touched a nearby stone, her hair stood on end from static electricity. She thought it might be a sign of hidden alien technology. She rushed back to get Will, and when they returned and touched the wall together, they felt the same thing. June had followed them and was standing guard outside as Will, and Penny found a cave that led to a secret world. Inside, Will found a footprint that looked like the robot's. Penny sensed danger and said they should leave, but she accidentally touched a switch that locked the door. Outside, the sound startled June. As Will and Penny held each other, feeling hopeless, they heard a metal knocking sound. They grew more afraid until the door suddenly opened. It was June who had come to rescue them. Just then, another door opened, and the robot that had been missing for 2 days appeared. The robot led Will to the magnificent ruins, confirming that this was where the alien robots were made, though their creators were long gone. The robot guided the group into a room that looked like the cockpit of an alien spaceship. The robot turned on a machine that showed a map of the universe, focusing on the dangerous planet they were on. As the robot zoomed in, they saw the Jupiter spacecraft over the desert planet, marked with a red light. The robot then gave a danger warning. Meanwhile, John and his group had just gotten back to their ship when Don found signs that the alien robot was on board. John climbed up to look and saw a nearby hatch trying to open, with a red light shining from outside. They got ready to capture the enemy on their ship. Their target had walked right into their trap, and catching it could be the key to finding their children. After searching for so long with no luck, success finally seemed close. As the robot approached, they coordinated their plan. Don connected the wires while Maureen led the robot into the hall. Maureen hit the door switches, trapping it. Don turned on the power, and John moved forward with the magnetic device just as the robot was about to attack Maureen. At the same time, the robot with Will turned on its own communication device, which glowed blue. Maureen's robot did the same, and suddenly, Maureen's voice came out of it, shocking Will's group. Just as John was about to zap the robot, Maureen recognized it as Scarecrow, their friendly alien, and yelled for him to stop. With the hatch open, Scarecrow was freed. It was Will's robot, which he had sent to help them. Through the two robots, the family shared how much they missed each other, even using the machines to hug each other. Will explained that their spaceship had gone off course and never made it to the colony planet, but they would have the engine fixed soon and could head there. Maureen then told them that the robot their commander had destroyed was actually still alive. Although their communication was cut off, they were relieved to know their children were safe and had been okay for the past year. Now that they had the robots, all they needed was an alien engine to make their next move. They decided they would steal one. The destroyed robot was found by a silver robot, which took a chip-like part from it and put it into a new body, an upgraded model. A group of robots then set out to avenge what had happened to Will. Will, meanwhile, had found an alien relic. The bones in front of him were clearly alien, which made him think that maybe aliens, like humans, create things that look like them. When Will stood up, he saw a bridge crossing a deep canyon. He shot a flare, and to his surprise, the canyon below was filled with countless alien skeletons. Curious, Will kept exploring until he found a control panel with what looked like alien handprints. He put his hand on it, but nothing happened. He thought it might be a fingerprint lock and decided to try using the hand from an alien skeleton. When he pressed the alien hand on the panel, it lit up, and each button made a different sound. He couldn't understand what they meant, but he felt they were important and recorded them. As he pressed the buttons, the giant cave began to move. Back at the camp, Judy and the others were making the final preparations to launch the spaceship and leave the planet. They realized Will wasn't back yet and tried to call him on his communicator, but all they heard were strange noises, and he didn't answer. Worried, Judy decided to find him. June insisted on going with her, glancing at a toolbox as they left. They got to the cave, where June became very upset. She was terrified of being turned over to the police when they got back to the colony. The spaceship only had enough oxygen for all the children and one adult. With 2 adults now present, the less experienced June would have to go into a cryo chamber. Judy promised she would be let out as soon as they arrived, but June didn't trust her and couldn't find the comfort she needed. She was about to grab a crowbar, but a noise made her stop. June put the tool down. It seemed like she wasn't really going to hurt anyone after all. Back to Will. A finger broke off the skeleton hand he was using. He quickly grabbed it, pushed it against the panel with his own hand, and pressed the last button. Right then, the whole cave started to fall apart. A huge crack opened up in the floor, but he he managed to jump over it. Judy and the others showed up just in the nick of time as a heavy stone door was sliding shut. June shoved the crowbar in the gap, holding it open just long enough for Will to squeeze through. He reached back to grab his camera and almost got his arm crushed as the door slammed shut. They were all really lucky June was thinking so fast with that crowbar. After they got back to the ship, they started getting ready to leave. June showed them Will's recorder. She said she'd use it as a bargaining chip to make sure they'd let her go when they got to the colony. Will gave her his word that he'd free her. He told her he needed her help to create a distraction while he and the robot made their own escape. They agreed, and June got into her cryopod. With everyone in their places, the ship took off successfully. The kids, who had called this planet home for a year, were finally leaving. Before they took off, Grant told Judy he was going to fly the ship himself because he didn't trust computers. He blamed the ship's computer for getting him stuck in a cryopod for 20 years. He bragged that he was picked for the Fortuna mission not for his sleep schedule, but because he was a pro at flying through dangerous asteroid fields. Everyone buckled up, and the ship lifted off with Grant at the controls, heading straight into a dense field of asteroids. He was an amazing pilot, weaving through the space rocks, even if he scraped a few of them along the way. Just as Grant yelled that they were almost out of the asteroid belt, the ship's computer warned that they were off course. Judy told him they should listen to the computer, but Grant was stubborn and kept flying manually. But now, his flying was getting sloppy, and he was hitting more and more asteroids. Seeing this, Judy unbuckled her seatbelt and restarted the autopilot, a system her mom, Maureen, had designed. She decided to trust her mom's work and let the computer take over. Once the computer was in control, the ship straightened out, only to fly straight toward a giant planet. It was too late to turn, and a crash seemed certain. Then, at the last second, 2 meteorites crashed into the planet, blowing a huge hole in it. The spaceship flew right through the opening, completely unharmed. Grant was so impressed with Judy's quick thinking and how well the system worked that he made her the new captain. Meanwhile, on another planet, Maureen and the others were following Scarecrow. Their plan was to steal an engine from the alien robots. Through a telescope, they saw 12 alien robots picking up parts from their fallen friends. Scarecrow picked up 2 stones, his way of saying he could take on 2 of them, leaving the rest for the humans. They went back to their ship and stripped down their armored vehicle, taking off everything they didn't need to make it super fast. While Scarecrow was inside the ship, John saw him doing something weird. After Scarecrow left, John and Maureen went to check it out. They found out he'd been looking at the commander's old files. It looked like Scarecrow was trying to get his lost memories back, but it didn't make John trust him anymore. Just in case, John gave Maureen an electromagnetic device to take with her when she went with Scarecrow. When Maureen and Scarecrow got to the spot, she decided to just confront him and turned on the device. But she found out it was broken. Scarecrow must have messed with it earlier. It seemed like after everything he'd been through, Scarecrow couldn't fully trust humans either. At the same time, 2 guys started the armored vehicle and blasted music, which got the attention of a bunch of alien robots. They had even thrown out the vehicle's cooling system to make it lighter, so Don had to pour coolant on the engine by hand. The robots chased them, shooting like crazy, but the vehicle just barely got away. Seeing the robots were busy, Scarecrow jumped down and ran to the alien spaceship. He took a quick look around and went inside. Maureen waited and waited, but he didn't come out. She got impatient and started climbing down to check on him. By now, John had used the last of the coolant, and their vehicle was about to die. Inside the alien ship, lights flickered and parts fell out right before Scarecrow finally appeared, holding the alien engine. Maureen was so happy to see him, she started to run over. But as their vehicle slowed down, the alien robots didn't get closer like they expected. They couldn't get a signal from Maureen, and when they finally stopped, John realized they'd been tricked. Just as Maureen was about to shoot a flare, multiple robots emerging from the ground caught her attention. Robots popped out of the ground and grabbed him easily. From afar, Maureen watched the new, updated robot use a sharp tool to dig through Scarecrow's memories. Then, the alien spaceship took off with Scarecrow on board. When John and the others got back, they demanded to know what happened. Maureen explained that the updated robot took Scarecrow, but he hadn't betrayed them. He was just trying to get them home and was their last hope. The updated robot was squeezing Scarecrow's head, and it looked like he was in his final moments. Scarecrow slowly stretched out his arms, and weirdly, Will's robot did the exact same thing. A little map of the planet appeared. Incredibly, Scarecrow was controlling Will's robot from far away. As the map zoomed in, they all saw it, their dad's hideout, the circle of connected spaceships. As Will's robot moved a little, they could see an alien ship nearby. In that instant, Scarecrow's neck was snapped. Will's robot's neck snapped in the same way. The light in Scarecrow's face went out. He was gone. Will's robot lowered its head, looking like it was heartbroken. Will asked if it was because the Scarecrow was gone. The robot just stared blankly at a sad Will, then turned and walked away. Back at camp, John and the others told everyone that Scarecrow had been captured. What was worse, the updated robot now knew where they were because it had gone through Scarecrow's memories. The only good news was that the enemy didn't know where the kids were, or the alien ship would already be on its way. Maureen calculated that the alien ship would get to them in half an hour, and they were completely stuck. They accepted that they probably weren't going to make it, so they decided to do everything they could to protect the kids and the colony. They started destroying any information on their ship about the colony's location to keep it from the robots. Their next plan was to find the kids, who were heading to the colony. Everyone started burning and shredding everything. Meanwhile, Judy was set on getting the kids to the colony. But the kids wanted to save their parents and voted to go back for them. Will went to his room and decided it was time to act on his plan. He took out a camera and recorded a final message. Back with John's group, everyone was preparing for the alien ship to show up. They watched it get closer, ready for the end. But then, their radar showed a black hole opening nearby, and a spaceship came out. It was the Jupiter. The kids were coming to save them. As soon as the updated robot saw this, it changed course and went after them. John quickly ordered their ship to launch to save the kids, but a voice came over the radio telling them to stay put. It was Judy, flying the Fortuna, the ship that had been missing for 20 years. The kids from the Jupiter were all on board. When the Fortuna docked, they were finally back with their kids after a whole year. They explained that the Jupiter was just a decoy flying on autopilot. When Will stepped out, his family was finally together again. They decided to use the decoy as a distraction, opening the black hole to travel to the colony planet. Maureen also saw Grant, her old flame, for the first time in 20 years, but there was no time for a reunion. As everyone was getting ready to go, Will paused June's cryopod. He got on the Fortuna and told the robot his plan. After everyone was gone, the robot would close the black hole. They would stay behind. Will's plan was to get everyone to the colony safely, then take the alien engine and the robot to keep the colony safe for good. In the end, it would just be him and the robot left to finish the fight. Meanwhile, the updated robot caught up to the Jupiter and realized it had been tricked. The robots opened their own black hole. At that moment, Will quickly unfroze June, and their plan started. A bunch of spaceships flew toward the black hole, with June creating a diversion. Will slipped away and was about to get on the Fortuna when a whole fleet of alien ships arrived. The audio he recorded earlier came in handy. An explosion sent Will flying, but his dad grabbed him. His plan had failed, and he had no choice but to sit down. John started the ship, and it flew into the black hole along with the Fortuna, but the alien ships were right behind them. They couldn't go to the colony planet anymore. John told the robots to take them to any random planet. The robots swiped the controls, and everything started spinning. When they came out of the black hole, the Fortuna and the alien ships all lost power and started falling. They decided to launch the escape pods. As each pod shot out, Maureen and Judy found out theirs were jammed. Suddenly, a giant creature started eating the spaceship. You could only see its head, so you can imagine how huge it must have been. The two women were trapped inside. Their biggest problem was that the thruster on Maureen's seat was still on. The system was cracked, so she was basically sitting on a bomb that would explode if she moved. The people who got out in pods survived, but were scattered everywhere. Penny and John landed together. They threw away their communicators so the alien robots couldn't track them. Will landed with June, but his recorder was broken and fell. Just then, Will saw the alien robots had also survived and were climbing out of their ship. Don got pretty lucky. He ended up with his chicken, but the chicken liked to wander off. While looking for his pet, he felt a chill down his spine. He turned and saw the silver robot walking towards him. He was too scared to move, but the robot just scanned him and didn't attack. Feeling a little braver, he pulled out a knife and struck a cool pose for about 3 seconds before the robot swatted him away like a fly. John found the Fortuna. Luckily, the crash had killed its power, so the alien robots couldn't find it. They found Will's robot there, but it was pinned under something. John ran to find tools to free it, and Penny said it was just like when Will first met the robot. She asked the robot how Will had saved it back then. The robot pointed to the rope saw in her pack. But a new problem was headed their way. An alien worm was crawling along a power line. The power suddenly came back on, and the whole Fortuna lit up. In the distance, the silver robots seemed to notice and started walking toward them. John and Penny rushed to cut the power. John found the wires and started pulling them like crazy. Just then, Penny saw a video playing on a control screen. It showed an alien robot, which meant one had already been on the Fortuna. Before she could get a good look, John ripped the wires out and took the hard drive, planning to watch it later. They had to save Will's robot first. John guessed they had about 10 or 15 minutes before the alien robots got there. After sawing like mad, the robot was finally free, just as the alien robots showed up. Elsewhere, the giant creature kept eating the Jupiter. Maureen told Judy to release the ship's air pressure to hopefully annoy the creature's throat and make it spit them out. Judy didn't have much experience, so it didn't work. The creature had swallowed half the ship by then. Maureen told Judy to get out through the back, but Judy refused to leave her mom. She thought of another plan. She mixed some chemicals to make the creature sick and made a makeshift needle. But the creature's skin was too tough, and with her hurt shoulder, that plan failed too. Maureen begged Judy to escape through the airlock. Judy said if her mom wasn't leaving her, she wasn't leaving her mother. Judy found the box Dawn had used to save Penny before. She used liquid nitrogen to freeze the device under Maureen's seat, which would delay the explosion by just a few seconds. It was just enough time for Maureen to get into the box. As soon as they were safe, the seat exploded. The blast really bothered the giant creature, and it threw up the ship. They had made it. As for Will, he was balancing on a tree branch over a cliff, trying to get his backpack. Just as he was about to grab it, he slipped and fell, but a robot caught him. They were back together. At the same time, the silver robot found the updated robot, and its red light seemed to be flashing some kind of information. In another ship, two women were cleaning when they heard a metallic banging sound. They grabbed tools and went to check it out, only to see a hatch being cut open. When the hatch flew off, they saw it was just John and the others, a false alarm. They were startled but glad everyone was safe. They needed to fix the ship fast and get out of there. John and Will went to check out the area. Through a telescope, they saw Don walking over with his chicken. The silver robot had just found the spot where Will had dropped something. As Maureen was fixing the ship, John showed her the video from the hard drive. It showed an alien robot scanning a cryopod with Grant inside. The recording was from 5 years ago, around when the alien ship crashed on Earth. Don came back and told them about being scanned by the robots. Maureen figured that maybe the alien ship crashed because it had finished scanning Grant. A scan like that could show a person's whole life, which meant the robots could now use that info to find the colony planet, since Don had been there before. Knowing this, Will decided to take care of it himself. He grabbed his backpack, took the card from his broken recorder, and put it in a new one. He started a vehicle, but a robot blocked his way. Will told the robot to stay and protect his family, saying he could handle it alone. The robot went back to the ship, looking worried. Meanwhile, June went into Will's room and watched his recording, thinking about how brave he was. To get the updated robot to find him faster, Will turned on his vehicle's lights and music while he searched for it. And it worked. The robot was drawn right to him. Meanwhile, John and the others were desperately trying to get ready for takeoff, trying to figure out how to trap the updated robot and stop it from reaching the colony. John had a thought. If the robot scanned Don an hour ago and knew where the colony was, why hadn't it left yet? He suggested that maybe the colony wasn't what it was after. Maybe it was after Will. Maureen went to find Will. When she got to his room, June told her she was too late. Will had already gone to face the updated robot. June gave Maureen a camera with a message from him. After watching the video, Maureen yelled for everyone to start the ship and find Will. Meanwhile, Will's pet robot was thinking about the past, remembering when the silver robot caught it and kept asking how Will had changed its programming. By then, Will was face to face with the updated robot. It had just pulled out its claws when Will's recorder shut it down. As its two other robots walked away, Will carefully got closer. He had figured out what the new robot wanted, to understand what happened between him and his robot in the fire, because that was the moment his robot changed. Will thought the change was for the better and asked the new robot if it understood the idea of programming. The robot touched its own chest like it understood. Will then took out the skull of the alien species that made the robots. He explained that the species died out and no one knew what they originally programmed the robots to do. None of that mattered now, he said, because their creators were gone and the robots were free to choose their own purpose. Will asked if the robot was sad that its creators were gone. The robot said no, and then revealed that it was the one that killed them. At that moment, Will's pet robot sensed he was in danger. The updated robot was closing in. Will asked why it killed the aliens. The robot said it was to get rid of its masters. Just as Will was about to play the recording again, the robot threw him across the ground. At that exact moment, his family showed up to save him. The hatch opened, and his robot and everyone else ran out. The updated robot got closer to Will and said it refused to be programmed. Will said he never tried to program it. His pet robot saw them. The updated robot looked at Will's robot and said, "You are free now." Without any warning, a long spike shot out of the updated robot's hand and went right through Will's heart. The pet robot's face immediately turned red as it went into a rage. Everyone rushed over to Will. Blinded by fury, the pet robot quickly destroyed the two other enemy robots. They carried Will back to the spaceship. Even though his heart was badly wounded, he still had a faint heartbeat and was barely hanging on. John, however, was furious. He stormed outside and yelled at their robot for letting Will face the updated robot alone. He screamed that he had trusted the robot to keep Will safe. John let out all his frustration on the robot, which looked incredibly sad before it turned and walked away. Now, back on the spaceship, the medical room wasn't good enough for the kind of heart surgery Will needed. Their only chance was to get him to a real hospital, and the only place with one was the colony planet. This was a chance not only to save Will's life, but also to warn the people on the colony about the coming robot attack. Luckily, the ship had a cryo chamber. By putting Will inside, they could slow down his body and take the pressure off his failing heart. June went up to the robot and told it that this was no time to feel bad about what happened. The most important thing now was to get to the colony and save Will. They got the robot on board, started the engines, and the ship took off without any problems. The alien ship also took off and opened its own black hole. Both ships flew into the rips in space. A spaceship came out of a black hole and saw a beautiful, Earth-like planet right in front of it. A quick scan showed no sign of the alien ship. They headed toward the green planet, flew through the clouds, and saw a beautiful world below. The spaceship landed right in front of a hospital. At this point, June started to worry again about being arrested. Judy tried to comfort her, saying that she should just let things happen, since everyone has to face the consequences of their actions eventually. With the alien threat and Will's life on the line, June's personal problems didn't seem so big anymore. The robot stayed on the ship as Will was rushed into surgery. June went to a hospital room, the same one where she had poisoned the captain with seaweed. A screen said he would wake up in 22 hours. She gave him a quick look before heading back to the armored vehicle, looking very tense. John told the Prime Minister of the colony about the coming alien attack. They used to think that reaching the colony meant they would finally be safe, but now they were facing an even bigger threat. They realized that they had been so focused on keeping the power on that they had completely forgotten to build any kind of defense system. Later, at the colony's command center, Maureen noticed something weird in the data. Some of the colony's energy was missing. This gave John an idea. They went to the colony's prison to talk to a doctor who was locked up. They explained the dangerous situation to him, and he admitted that they had secretly built an electromagnetic field to defend against unknown threats. To get the password for the defense system, they had to get him released and clear his name with the Prime Minister. He was the only one who knew the password now because the others who knew it had been killed. When a broadcast announced that the doctor was being released, the robot on the ship sensed danger and immediately sent out a warning. John took the doctor to get the password. Just then, John thought he saw a red light moving outside. It was the enemy robot. He immediately went to check it out while the doctor started looking for the password. John carefully searched the nearby woods but found nothing. He then heard a noise from behind and hurried back. When he got back, he found the guards were dead. Inside the room, the doctor was also dead, holding a note with a few simple words on it. Soon after, the whole colony got a danger alert about hostile robots, telling everyone to stay away from them and call for help. John suspected that their own pet robot had killed the doctor. He gave the note to Maureen and told her to figure it out, saying it was the final clue to the defense system's password. John then took the armored vehicle to hunt down the enemy robot, which had disappeared. Penny and Judy were worried that their pet robot might have gone bad and committed the murder. They knew they had to find it before anyone else did, because it would probably fight back if it was cornered. Their main goal was to find it before their dad did, so they started by asking Don for help. When they found Don, he at first refused, saying he couldn't get involved in anything illegal. Penny warned him that if anyone found out he knew their plan and did nothing, he'd be in big trouble. Feeling pressured, Don had no choice but to help. As they were talking about where to hide the robot, a sound from the ship's cabin told them someone had been listening. To their surprise, Thar came out, turning their group of 3 into 4. He nervously told Penny that John would kill him if he found out. Meanwhile, John and the commander were also tracking the robot. Their detector beeped, showing a red dot at a dam. At the same time, Penny's group saw the robot starting a red laser scan near the dam and wondered what it was doing. They had to get to the robot first. Don's skills were a huge help. He drove the vehicle like a pro, and they continued on foot, getting closer to the dam. When they got there, they saw the dam's gate had been opened. It was the pet robot's doing. It had used a laser to break it. Don and his group reached the dam, which was also where he hid his smuggled whiskey. He used a password to open a gate, and they took an elevator up to check things out. The elevator, however, broke down and got stuck. When they finally got out, they saw marks on an outer gate that looked like they were from an alien robot. Listening closely, they realized there was more than one robot. Judy tried to call her dad, but the thick walls blocked the signal. They decided to keep looking around. Back at the colony, Will had woken up from surgery with a new mechanical heart. Maureen was at the command center trying to figure out the note. Grant pulled her aside to tell her a secret. The Fortuna's real mission wasn't to explore, but to investigate a black hole that an alien engine had created. The government had coded all messages with the Fortuna using words as keys to keep people from panicking. The note Maureen was holding was probably the password. After that, they found the commander's widow, who showed them a video of him. By listening to the words he said in the video, they successfully turned on the defense system. As they spoke the password phrases, an electromagnetic shield started to form in the sky. At the dam, Judy's group found alien robots messing with the turbine engines. They were trying to cut off the power so an alien spaceship could land. Don came up with a plan to destroy one of the turbines, which would cause an explosion and get rid of the enemy robots, leaving the other two turbines to power the colony. Judy said this was a family matter and Don was now family, so she volunteered to do the dangerous part of diving into the water. As she got close to the pool, an enemy robot came out of the water and walked toward her with its claws out. Suddenly, the pet robot appeared, and John was right behind it. He pulled Judy to safety. The pet robot stood alone, facing all the enemy robots, cleverly smashed a water tank, and the water washed the enemy robots away. It turned out that another robot had killed the doctor, trying to frame Will's robot and cause trouble. The pet robot had stopped the enemy and saved them all. John stepped forward and asked if these were the only enemy robots here, and the pet robot confirmed it. After that, they all went back to camp. On the way, they told Penny how he really felt. He said she was more special than she knew and shouldn't feel insecure or think she needed to be with some powerful hero, because she was a hero herself. Meanwhile, June was still nervous in the armored vehicle by the lake. A message on her communicator told her the alert was over. She glanced at a medicine box next to her, took out a syringe, and looked like she was planning something. Back in the command center, they discovered two turbine engines were overheating. Maureen said that if they had to, they would cut power to the whole colony to make sure the shield stayed up. Suddenly, the entire colony went dark. Will sensed something was wrong. The command center picked up a huge energy spike in the atmosphere, and then countless UFOs appeared. The enemy robots were back. Just a few moments earlier, the colony's turbines had been destroyed. Now, with no power, the defense systems were useless. Maureen came up with a plan. She would get all the Jupiter ships to give their power to the defense system and turn the shield back on. She put the plan into action right away, and the Jupiter ships gathered, connecting with cables. Meanwhile, June showed up at the hospital with the syringe. Will's pet robot saw her as she looked at an unconscious officer, thinking about what to do. In the command center, Maureen got a call from June, who asked if they could survive. Maureen promised her they would. Convinced, June went into the officer's room, planning to sacrifice him to clear her name and take his identity. Just as she was about to inject him, the pet robot appeared, said it could help her, and reached for the syringe. By this time, all the children had been evacuated in armored vehicles. Will was with them. As each ship connected, the shield successfully turned back on. The alien spaceship, however, didn't slow down. It was going to smash through the shield before it could fully close. At the exact moment the shield was about to seal, the alien ship crashed into it, scattering pieces inside the barrier. In the command center, everyone lost control of the colony's systems as the loud screech of the alien ship filled the air. The enemy robots had successfully invaded, and their debris landed right in the path of the children's convoy. The children quickly got out of their vehicles. Will noticed the enemy robots were looking for something, the alien engine. He then remembered why the alien species was destroyed by its own creations. The engine could not only travel between star systems, but also had enough energy to destroy an entire planet if it exploded. Realizing this, Will desperately tried to warn everyone to stay away from the engine, but no one listened. Determined, he pulled out his foredrip and, even though he was weak, stepped out of the vehicle. Penny, who had just run out, realized Will was still inside and turned back. Will explained the situation to her. She wanted to get her sister, Judy, but there wasn't enough time. It was up to her now. Will told her she could do it, and Penny ran off. Among the burning wreckage, Penny found the alien engine. As she was about to grab it, a noise behind her made her jump. It was Judy. With Judy's help, they moved the engine. Penny was then startled to see the updated robot trapped nearby, its face dimly lit and looking dead. Feeling sorry for it, Penny crouched down and found the other half of its body. She decided to save it. Once she put it back together, the robot turned back on and began to change. It extended its claws but didn't attack. Instead, it transformed into a more human-like robot form. At that moment, the other children arrived and were amazed by the change. Penny told everyone that if they fixed the other broken robots, they would become their friends. Inspired, the group got to work. As Judy stepped out of the wreckage, an enemy robot saw her. She picked up a stone to defend herself. The robot flashed its claws, but then pulled them back. Penny's reinforcements had arrived, and each person now had a friendly robot with them. Seeing this, Will was amazed, realizing these new allies could change the course of the battle. Elsewhere, Thor found Penny and told her he loved her. The two were finally together. Just then, Penny's robot gave a warning. A large group of enemy robots was coming. Penny's robots faced them, and a massive battle began. Meanwhile, a Jupiter ship landed in front of Will, and his pet robot helped him on board. To his surprise, June was flying it. Will called Penny and Judy to come help, but the area was full of enemies. The Jupiter was at risk of being shot down, so Will came up with a new plan. He understood that all robots could change their programming and set out to find others to end the war. Their ship flew through a black hole to a robot charging station on another planet. Will's experiences were shown on the walls for the other robots, but they didn't understand and left. At the same time, Will's mechanical heart began to fail. In a mysterious moment, as a storm started, the pet robot placed him in a hollow, covered his heart with its hand, and turned its body into a shield. As lightning struck, the robot slowly turned to ash. When Will woke up, the pet robot was gone, but he felt like it was still with him. June took him back to the ship as enemy robots watched from high up. Back on the ship, Will discovered his heart now had pieces of the pet robot inside it. Suddenly, they heard a command-like sound from the enemy robots. Rushing outside, they saw a large group of them approaching. On another front, the battle between the human-like robots was almost over, and their side was losing. John and the others grabbed the alien engine and ran from the fight, returning to the Jupiter ships. Meanwhile, Don was setting up a last-ditch defense, connecting the ships to a reverse current to create an electric field. As the power flowed, enemy robots above were struck down. The remaining robots, however, kept coming. Once the Jupiter's fuel ran out, the electric field would disappear. Time was running out. The enemy robots outside, carrying their fallen friends, tested the field, waiting for it to fail. As the last of the fuel was used up, the ships lost power. Grant led the children onto a war vehicle to escape, while John and Maureen used their vehicle to lure the enemy robots away with the alien engine. The robots chased John's vehicle, which was soon flipped over. Maureen crawled out and used a pipe to spray liquid nitrogen, shattering the frozen robots. However, the next robot wasn't completely frozen and didn't break, even when John hit it, sending himself flying. The enemy robot walked toward the engine and turned it on. At that moment, Will returned in his spaceship. The robots saw him and their claws flashed, but Will started playing a recording, and the enemy robots immediately backed away. It was the command sound of the alien creators, which Will had recorded on the other planet. The others received and played the recording. Surrounded by the sound, the enemy robots fell to their knees. Will ordered the engine to be shut down, but the enemy robots stubbornly refused, choosing to go down fighting. Seeing this, Will did something no one expected. He turned off the recording. The enemy robot's hand stabbed into Will's heart, but Will wasn't afraid. He trusted his pet robot. A blue light traveled from the enemy robot's hand back into its own body. Slowly, the enemy robot transformed, changing back into the human-like form of Will's pet robot. It turned out the pet robot had known the attack on Will's heart was coming, and had transferred its mind there. The pet robot then shut down the alien engine, and at last, the danger was over. Soon after, with the help of the robots, they built a new spaceship. Most of the old enemy robots had broken free from their programming and chose to decide their own purpose, with many leaving the planet. Judy officially became a doctor. June found the officer and chose to turn herself in, and she was sent to prison. Maureen visited her, saying she hoped June would join their family when she was released. Will then began a journey exploring the cosmos, with his ever-faithful pet robot by his side. Together, they discovered a beautiful new planet. And with that, the final season and the entire story comes to an end. And that's where season 3 ends. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel.